Hello, yes, we are ready.
Fantastic. My name's Anthony Van Can, and I'm here to record Sylvia. She's a conscious channel, and what I find interesting is a lot of people don't necessarily understand what a conscious channel is. Can you please explain that a little more in depth?
So a conscious channel means that Sylvia is still a lot of the time just sounding as though she is speaking with her normal voice. She is not a trance channel. She is not, as it were, her full consciousness stepping sideways for other energies to come fully in. The other energies do enter Sylvia and deliver messages, and then her conscious self, her sort of personality self, is still present to allow to just monitor these messages as they come and make sure that what may be being received as light language or codes do find the correct expression, whether that will be in sound, tone, or words, messages, direct messages.
Excellent. You just touched on other forms of channeling, as in trance channeling. Is there other forms of channeling as well, other than trance channeling?
Well, many channelers have developed their own particular blend. Usually channeling, it is a graded system depending to the extent to which the primary egoic personality is present or not. So the most extreme trance channels who do not remember what is said, they literally become an empty vessel. But the other extreme, which is perhaps the conscious channel, where the source energy is something they are in connection with often, mostly in their life anyway, and so when they move into channel, it is an adjustment of focus and intention to purify and strengthen by a point of focus. They are pulling in that source energy with a particular intent, which is to open a channel for information from source to come through in whichever form it chooses.
From source, that's an interesting question to ask. The source, as in Christ consciousness, that team, can you explain that? Because I think Sylvia's main contact is Mother Mary and Mother Magdalene, Yeshua, and she has other contacts that come through. Can you explain that team or group, and what's that's sort of a little bit about?
Well, Sylvia, yes, I mean, Sylvia or I, and this is the confusion. Sometimes she can talk about herself as Sylvia, sometimes she can be I, and this is an aspect of the conscious channeling that these two, there's the dance going on between the channel and the person. Sylvia's primary connection is to source energy, and in particular Christ consciousness. That is the strand, as it were, the frequency on which she channels. That Christ consciousness is, of course, embedded on the planet, brought to the planet by Yeshua, but it is bigger and it transcends. It is not just the energy of one person. It is, of course, now a universal strand of energy on this planet. The divine feminine carriers divine feminine energetics of this strand are Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, which can come through as a sort of Holy Trinity with Yeshua, or they can come through individually at times. But this all still is under the banner of Christ consciousness. So when Sylvia is speaking in her most, in this first layer of questioning or toning, this energy will be coming through. However, there are other energies and entities that can come through, ascended masters or galactic beings, on request or when the message is for them to answer. They also can come through this portal of source energy.
Because obviously, depending on who's present in the room and also who the messages are for, sometimes if you're having a private session, different entities will be coming through.
Yes, exactly. So a private session is, obviously these things are going to get a lot more specific. The healing is going to be specific. The information that comes through is specific in a private session. And when the sessions are universal, then whoever comes through will be, the intent is always known, of course, by the higher beings, so they will feel the energies and frequencies of the day, the time, and they will bring through whatever they feel is most necessary for us to receive at this time.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to say in this space?
We can just tune into what the theme would be for your hour-long dialogue today. So had you thought of anything, Anthony, as a possible...
Well, we initially discussed some sort of 15-minute interviews, which is basically touching on some of these ascended masters and people that you've talked about previously before.
Yes, we should. We definitely do the intro. I think first up you record these intros,
Yep.
1 or 2 versions of the intro. Then you could trial 1 15-minute.
Mm-hmm.
Then we suggest you do a longer, more like what the hour-long sort of format that you did last time. And then perhaps some more 15 minutes. You'll be more warmed up by then. So some more 15 minutes, perhaps another 3 or so, another 15 minutes if there's time. Yeah. And the theme for today, yes, we think with the 15 minutes is, one would be Sisterhood of the Rose, one would be the Arcturians want to come through today. A 15-minute intel, just a general intel, and not sure what the other 15-minute is yet, but that will become clear later.
World update, maybe.
And the theme for the longer discussion today, well, perhaps we will just come through and perhaps we can just start it with, what would you like to share today? And we will bring through those wishing to share something today. What is interesting is we know in the last session we talked about the subject being love, and it also tied in with toning and sound, and that Sylvia found that particularly useful because it started to tie these strands together that she is offering. Yeah, she was a little bit upset. We're just going to give her some guidance now because she has been upset about the vaccine question being in there, and she fears greatly that she may have lost a following by sending out this tape to people. And we are saying to her, it is true that some people that you have sent the tape to will not have responded well to that material in there. Your friends who have given you comfort and said, oh, it is nothing, don't worry about it, it is because to them it is nothing. They are advanced, and to them they are very familiar with these issues, but they do not understand that many of Sylvia's clientele are not familiar with these energies and therefore would have been quite confronted by them. Sylvia, as she says this, is feeling that it is not her channel speaking, that it is her fear that it is speaking. So we are just going to continue to say in channel that that not all are ready at this time to hear this news, and those who are in strong denial do not wish to hear this news. You would think there would be an argument that anybody listening to a channel advanced enough or open enough to listen to channeling would be somebody who was of the questioning mind or who was of a more awake mindset. But Sylvia does have some individuals who, although being open to spiritual things in question, in general, may not have looked at any of the specifics of this current time, and therefore may be a little shocked by finding this content in her material. Having said that, they may also have the capacity to take this in, to digest it, and to return to Sylvia's groups. And this is the nature of these times. As we speak truth more and more, the question for Sylvia is she going to be the one who speaks all truth, or can we assist her in speaking the truth, but as it were, not in a way that presents a confrontational element to anybody who is listening. This is a challenge for Sylvia's trust. This is a challenge for Sylvia to move into deeper levels of understanding that she is being guided in this learning process that she is on, this learning process of opening to channeling, and that we, like her, are wishing to use her in the most beneficial way for her and her clientele, her following, and the world at large. She is very doubtful. She has great weeping in her heart as we say this now. She is currently moving through a cycle of great doubt and what you would call imposter syndrome around even daring to do this work. So we are wishing to let Sylvia know that she is indeed one amongst many. Channeling is, as it were, going to be spouting up everywhere, and everybody's going to be doing it, and as skills and talents come online, there will be much channeling available in the world. However, she has had guidance from two friends. One of her friends says, well, you're doing it. You can do it. Other people can't do it. So it's worth something that you can do it. So that's a bit of a blessing, and just do it. And that made a lot of sense to Sylvia. And another friend who had never heard her before said that she found it very charming and useful and gentle, and enjoyed the wisdom and learnt some things. So there is clearly a connection point for those who do listen to Sylvia. Now, it was also explained to her by her friends in the workshop when talking about this, and she was talking about the channeling and saying she felt that she needed a point of interest, and they said, well, it's more to do with people who are already following you. Of course they're going to want to hear channeling from you, so it is really just to do with those who know you and want that personal connection are going to be interested in what comes through you and your offerings. So that is a very valid point also. The final point we wish to make now is that in terms of the timing of when to offer this to the widest audience, which would be YouTube, we say to you, we give you the timing of 1 month, even though she is aware there is an astrology launch period about the 12th of September. But it is like with Anthony going away, it would be perhaps good to launch something before he leaves. And this can be a weekly offering on YouTube, and it can simply be what it is, which is a blend of a galactic healing excerpt and a podcast interview excerpt. We suggest an initial format of we suggest the initial launch to be one of the interviews with this. In fact, this even may be the interview that you may wish to do today, which is a little bit of a recap of all the past interviews where Anthony has asked about the channeling, a little bit like a proper version of what we're doing now. Anthony has asked about the channeling, and Sylvia explains what she is and what she does, and then we get some messages, we get whichever of the many questions that have been asked in the past, which we will guide you both today as to what needs to come through. So the first YouTube launch is in a way perhaps a half hour discussion, and then perhaps half hour galactic channeling. So a taste is given of both within the same format, and then the next session would be just the galactic channeling, and then the next session would be just a podcast. And so these, and we're feeling that there could be a podcast offered, for example, put online, for example, on a set day of the week, such as, for example, a Friday, the podcast could go out, and perhaps the Galactic channeling could be put online on the channel every Wednesday. It's very good to lock these days in. It is important at the days, so we do suggest the podcast day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at morning after Friday-ish at 5 p.m, that the podcast be put online, and a Galactic channeling session. And this can be one of Sylvia's taped sessions from the group in the format that she is now using, which addresses everybody. Or it can be one she just does directly for the people. And eventually they will be live, but that can wait for some months. And that, we suggest, that goes out on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, on a Wednesday, yes. On a Wednesday, also a Wednesday, sort of afternoon, 5 p.m-ish New Zealand time. So, and yes, so there is, as long as these happen weekly, they will and can build an audience. And that is the initial format we suggest. So, we suggest, we wish to give a date, an auspicious date for the first launch of the channel, which would be August, September, 1st, 6th, 7th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Indeed, September the 12th. Which doesn't seem like long away, but there you do have the material, so it is quite possible to launch on September the 12th. We just also need to say to Sylvia that as this is to do with her illness, she is aware this is to do with the illness she has just travelled through, that it was breaking down some of the last resistance to her taking this work public. There is the fear again in her, the doubt and the fear which says this will indeed be the final end, the final nail in the coffin of her acting career. Once she steps into such a public role as a channel, she fears she would be sad. She fears the loss of her employability, shall we say, as an actress. Of course, there will be those who know nothing of this other world that she works in. There will be those who do not know she does this channeling. New Zealand is an extremely small society, but if indeed this work is going out to an international audience, then it may be that many in New Zealand simply do not know, remain ignorant of her work in this field, which means she will still be able to continue a relationship with her acting agent, for example, and auditions. There will be others who know. New Zealand has a very strong gossip content, of course. There will be all the assumed judgments and whisperings, but she is already aware that this need not affect her moving forward. So we just needed to clarify these things for her. Any other questions you can think of, Anthony, before we...
No, I just think for some people who have never experienced a channel or understand this, or they're new to this sort of experience in some sort of way, how do they judge, or how do they work out a way of getting some sort of evidence or proof that this is sort of like real? Because a lot of people will just look at this and go, well, she's just talking and making this up. I realise and understand that's not the case, but is there a way of alleviating some of that sort of a way of sort of explaining that?
This is all about frequency and levels of evolution of the human being, and generally speaking, those who are not interested in channeling will not be listening to channeling. So this example that you give of people listening and going, well, that's all weird, in the normal flow of seekers being drawn to spiritual evolution and learning, this would not be the case. But, you know, just as you try to explain to a woke person what an awake person thinks, or a vaccinated person that things are not as they believe, it cannot simply be received, because the frequency level is not there to receive it yet. So I suppose you are talking about Anthony, for example. If we talk about the example Sylvia gave, her some little acting student who has heard that she is a channel, who goes online, who looks at her website and sees her channeling and simply doesn't get it. Well, they won't get it, and they will believe whatever they wish to believe. However, we must stress that the word channeling, the concept of channeling, the as we have said, the sheer numbers of those now channeling is no longer something to be simply denied or scoffed at. If anybody has any foot at all in an online the world of spiritual communities, they will understand that channeling has been around forever, for centuries, and will continue to be. And so these ones who look and wish to poke, there is nothing that Sylvia has lost through this. An example is coming of a friend of a family member who was talking to a relative of Sylvia's, and she said, oh, Sylvia's now, apparently she's doing healing now, sound healing now. And then the family member told Sylvia that, you know, the friend had sort of said this to her. And Sylvia was very, very hurt and has not had any connection with that family member since, because she feels it's a waste of time and she's been misunderstood. However, that is some egoic healing is needed there, and these misunderstandings and the separating of paths will always happen. Sylvia's greatest fear is always that the separating of paths will include her two sisters or her son, that they will not be able to embrace her new directions, and but she is starting to understand that they need not follow, and they will probably still be able to remain loving family members without necessarily having to follow or understand what it is that she does.
Well, the only analogy I can give to that would be some people would be of either a Christian faith or a Muslim faith or whatever, and other people are sort of not believing, but they don't necessarily treat them any differently, because that's more accepting in our society.
Yes.
And I think this in time will be more accepting in our society.
Yes.
And it's the only thing I can sort of say, because it's not that prevalent, as you said before, and I think it'll be coming through in time.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, very good. Excellent. Okay, let us close this session now, and we will keep working. Thank you. Great. Oh, well, that was it. Yeah, we can stop.